Greater light, greater light. Like I promised, I said I would come on here and speak on the Gullah Geechees. Uh, this is just information about transparency because on every account, this Bidenomics U.S. cyber mark of the beast, transparency is needed on every level. Let me tell you. No, I'm gonna show you better than I can tell you. I'm gonna show it to you. So I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen. Is the queen being transparent with the people? Her, Warnock, are they being transparent? Are they being transparent when they speak to the people in regards to the Gullah Geechee corridor being part of research and development? I'm not saying what she stand for and her reasoning or methodology behind her computer science, engineering, technology, research and development grants that she received in order to do this research and development, that it isn't important to a group of people or a community. What I'm saying is based on the Bay Doyle, oh, what is it? Can I say it properly? I'm not saying it properly. The Bay Dole Act, Biden, them could come and snatch the land anytime they choose based on her patent and her trademark. That's what I'm saying. Like the companies have to send in everyone that received a grant, they have to send in, they have to sign under the cyber trust mark. But the Trademark Act that's right here, the patient waivers that have to be signed and everything, she has to do that for the people that she has up under her right now. See, if you think back to when Warnock was running and at that international brotherhood, and he said Warnock made more money for him than anybody in history. With whose help? The Queen. And I'm not speaking against that. I'm not speaking against it. I'm saying what's currently going on in the government right now because she received that land to be able to make the moves that she made. She received it under a grant, and she received it under a federal grant. And because it was research and development, this same act right here can affect everybody that signed up under it. And you thinking you're going to be here on holy land when at any point, because of this executive order right here, if Biden decides or Kamala Harris in their transatlantic slave, you going without permission. You going without, they don't have to ask your permission because you're under their trademark right here. Click, click. Am I sharing the screen? I'm not sharing the screen probably. I'm doing all that clicking and not sharing the screen. So that's it. Where is the transparency in this right here? Now I'm gonna play this video. Here we go. I'm gonna play this video that I listened to today. And the word, I told y'all the word for the rest of the year is transparency. So let's hear some more transparency themes. Here we go. Let me make sure I'm coming in. I could be doing all this talking and not even coming in.
When
Now,
life gets wild, get wilder.
all this talking.
Soar higher. Roar louder.
We said that we, the people, we can handle the truth. For most of human history, the government believed it had to tell the people a noble lie to keep them quiet and compliant. We in America say there is no lie the government tells us that is a noble lie. Every lie is ignoble. What the origin of the pandemic was 2.5 years ago. What the
Okay, he just said that I'm at Forbes breaking news. Huh? I don't know if this is artificial intelligence simulated video or not, but I like what has to be said over here at Forbes breaking news. Huh? Now I don't agree with everything he say because capitalism is just another methodology. Huh? So that don't, truth don't make I don't agree with it all, but I agree with the majority of it. So it seems like him and Rand Paul, physician Rand Paul, they talking about transparency. Transparency, transparency, transparency. Who is going to be transparent? PCAST, they said transparency. I haven't received an email yet. So here. Let him talk before I go over here to Congress about this research and development. Huh? And Rico, where you at? You remember me telling you? No? Oh, okay. No. Okay.
actual basis was for locking down our schools or mandating vaccines in this country, what the actual basis was for suppressing a Hunter Biden laptop story that is now proven to be true on the eve of an election, what the truth was about that transgender shooters manifesto in Nashville, where I was yesterday, calling for the release of that manifesto. We live in a moment where our government believes that we, the people, cannot handle the truth.
Hold up. What? You can't handle the truth.
That we, the people, cannot be trusted with the truth. Well, it turns out that trust is a two-way relationship. The reason that the people don't trust the government today is that we have a government that doesn't trust its people. And if I bring one thing to the U.S. government, it will be transparency, truth, and accountability. And the way we do it.
Okay. The acronyms for that is TATA. Like TTA. TATA. Who are the TATAs? The TATA. His name is Ramas Wami. I went to school with that last name. It was three of them, brothers and sisters, elementary. They had that last name.
Is not by waiting for then. We start now by speaking the truth, speaking the hard truth, speaking the truth without apology. That is what makes us us. There is a difference between what people are willing to say in public and what they will be willing to say in private. You want to know the best measure of the health of American democracy? It is the percentage of.
Now, do y'all hear that tone? Didn't I tell you there's a certain tone? You hear it, I hear it loudly in Obama's voice. But all of those that are around him and connected to him, well, some of them, majority of them, they have that same. Kamala has that tone. He has that tone. Listen. If you close your eyes, somebody else, the guy in Alaska, the governor of Alaska, somebody somewhere, the guy that I said just sound like Obama in a fat suit, right? Right. But then Obama, his yes we can is from a yes he can in the 60s or something. I don't know. Here, let me be quiet here.
Public and what they will be willing to say in private. You want to know the best measure of the health of American democracy? It is the percentage of people who feel free to say what they actually think in public. And right now, we are doing poorly. The only way we're going to do better is all of us start to talk openly again. That is what we're doing tonight in this theater where Abraham Lincoln spoke 163 years ago, in this theater where Teddy Roosevelt spoke just over a century ago. We continue that American tradition. In a moment, I want to hear from all of you. Open up, take the filter off, say
Wait, if you list me, I'm hearing multiple tones. He went from sounding like a rhinestone cowboy to Michigan to uh, an islander, all up and wrapped up in one. Uh-oh. I like what you're saying, but what does it mean about what you're saying? Does it mean if everybody agreed to you, everybody agreed, then at the end, you was the trap? You being transparent, I'm being transparent. Well, are we all? He said it's ta-ta. Ta-ta! The word, the acronym is TTA. Ta-ta!
in public what you would say in private. Stand up and speak the truth. That is what I am doing at every step in this campaign. I would rather speak truth and lose this election than to win by playing some political snakes and ladders. We don't need super PAC puppets. We need patriots who speak the truth. So that is what we're going to do tonight. God is real. There are two genders. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border. Parents determine the education of their children. The nuclear family is the best known form of governance to mankind. Capitalism is the best system known to man to lift people up from poverty. And we will not apologize for it. There are three branches of government, not four. And the U.S. Constitution is the strong.
I hear it all loud and clear. He say it's a trinity, one world order. We want to keep you here for 1,000 years. I'm gonna tell you there's a God, but did he say there's a Jesus Christ? Let me stop. Let me stop. Let me be serious because I need y'all to take me seriously when I let you hear this congressional record that most of the people in the conscious community won't go and step and play. They may know that it exists, but they say, you know what? We down with the chips. We down with Bidenomics. We down with what they doing. We down with Kamala Harris saying that we could get transitioned over to Africa all willy nilly. Maybe the ones who signed up under her know they is like, yeah, we don't mind. But does that mean all of the South Carolinians, all along the corridor, all the people of Yamasee, everybody on the coast, gonna get sent on over there? Say without permission. They'd be like, no, you. I can see them rounding up people now. Talking about, yeah, no, because you was part of research and development, huh? Huh? Get on the boat, huh? Be quiet, huh? That could possibly happen because Kamala Harris said so. It's written in the government. You believe in the power of having the Gullah Geechee Nation, then that's fine. But no, if she's supposed to be transparent with saying and stating that this was part of research and development, and the chances are, if this law right here is passed, it ain't nothing she could say or do to stop Biden them from Kamala Harris's plans based on this law right here, that this executive order that he just signed on Friday, July. This Transparency Act is not just about the people who was researched and developmentally played with in the hospital scene. It's any part of national federal research and development that Bidenomics has put his trademark in on these chips law and the U.S. Cyber Trust mark of the beast. That's all. That's it. That's it. It's just about being transparent and telling the truth, right? No. Okay, be quiet. I'm going to be quiet. Let me let him finish. I think he was finished. And I'm going to go on and play this record right here.
Strongest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is the truth. We stand up for the truth, fight for the truth. That is what won the American Revolution, and that is what will win us the revolution of 2024. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We're just getting warmed up. Appreciate you and your families.
Wait, we're just getting warmed up. This is just the beginning for those who cannot be left. I just wanted to get this information out here before I go on and continue talking about Dr. Casquetta and why that's so close to me. Is for those who've been following or listening and supporting me on one way or the other. Uh, I've been for 30 years waiting for the government or somebody to be transparent. And it ain't never happened. And now that everybody's talking about transparency, I feel like I'm the luckiest gal in the world, huh? Did I get to see this before the skies opened up? The wait. The clouds will unfold, preparing his entrance. Wait, I got off a key there because I'm all excited about this. I definitely won't talk bad about my people. Just saying, my people want to tell the truth. That's it. And somebody gonna feel some type of way because I said she was ugly, huh? Let me tell you something. Every day I listen to my grandma say she was ugly. And I look at her and I be like, "You're beautiful to me." And she'd be like, "Girl, I'm ugly, huh? My big nose." But she always thought, I guess she thought she was ugly, but she keep herself up. I don't know if people made her feel like she was ugly, huh? But she was beautiful to me. So if I say ugly, how you know what I'm talking about? Huh? Right. Yeah, here we go. I'm gonna let y'all listen to this.
Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage ACT. Congressional Record Volume 150, No. 119 House, September 28, 2004. Text available as TXT, PDF, 256 kilobytes. View TXT in new window. Formatting necessary for an accurate reading of this text may be shown by tags, for example, deleted or bold, or may be missing from this TXT display. For complete and accurate display of this text, see the PDF. Pages H7666 H7669 from the Congressional Record Online through the Government Publishing Office, www.gpo.gov. Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage ACT. Mr. Radonovich. Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 4683 to enhance the preservation and interpretation of the Gullah/Geechee cultural heritage and for other purposes, as amended. The clerk read as follows. H.R. 4683. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled. Section 1. Short title. This act may be cited as the Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage Act. SEC. 2. Purposes. The purposes of this act are to 1. Recognize the important contributions made to American culture and history by African Americans known as the Gullah/Geechee who settled in the coastal counties of South Carolina and Georgia. 2. Assist state and local governments and public and private entities in the South Carolina and Georgia in interpreting the story of the Gullah/Geechee and preserving Gullah/Geechee folklore, arts, crafts, and music. And 3. Assist in identifying and preserving sites, historical data, artifacts, and objects associated with the Gullah/Geechee for the benefit and education of the public. SEC. 3. Definitions. For the purposes of this Act, the following definitions apply. 1. Commission. The term commission means the Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor Commission established under this Act. 2. Heritage Corridor. The term Heritage Corridor means the Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor established by this Act. 3. Secretary. The term Secretary means the Secretary of the Interior. Page H 7667. SEC. 4. Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor. A. Establishment. There is established the Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor. B. Boundaries. 1. In general, the Heritage Corridor shall be comprised of those lands and waters generally depicted on a map entitled Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor numbered GGCHC/80,000 and dated September 2004. The map shall be on file and available for public inspection in the appropriate offices of the National Park Service and in an appropriate state office in each of the states included in the Heritage Corridor. The Secretary shall publish in the Federal Register, as soon as practicable after the date of enactment of this Act, the detailed description and map of the boundaries established under this subsection. 2. Revisions. The boundaries of the Heritage Corridor may be revised if the revision is proposed in the management plan developed for the Heritage Corridor. B. Approved by the Secretary in accordance with this Act. And C. Placed on file in accordance with paragraph 1. C. Administration. The Heritage Corridor shall be administered in accordance with the provisions of this Act. SEC. 5. Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor Commission. A. Establishment. There is hereby established a commission to be known as Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor Commission, whose purpose shall be to assist federal, state, and local authorities in the development and implementation of a management plan for those land and waters specified in Section 4. B. Membership. The commission shall be composed of 9 members appointed by the Secretary as follows. 1. 4 individuals nominated by the State Historic Preservation Officer of South Carolina and 2 individuals nominated by the State Historic Preservation Officer of Georgia and appointed by the Secretary. 2. 2 individuals from South Carolina and 1 individual from Georgia who are recognized experts in historic preservation, anthropology, and folklore, appointed by the Secretary. C. Terms. Members of the Commission shall be appointed to terms not to exceed 3 years. The Secretary may stagger the terms of the initial appointments to the Commission in order to assure continuity of operation. Any member of the Commission may serve after the expiration of their term until a successor is appointed. A vacancy shall be filled in the same manner in which the original appointment was made. D. Termination. The Commission shall terminate 10 years after the date of enactment of this Act. SEC. 6. Operation of the Commission. A. Duties of the Commission to further the purposes of the Heritage Corridor. The Commission shall 1. Prepare and submit a management plan to the Secretary, in accordance with Section 7. 2. Assist units of local government and other persons in implementing the approved management plan by carry out programs and projects that recognize, protect, and enhance important resource values within the Heritage Corridor. B. Establishing and maintaining interpretive exhibits and programs within the Heritage Corridor. C. Developing recreational and educational opportunities in the Heritage Corridor. D. Increasing public awareness of and appreciation for the historical, cultural, natural, and scenic resources of the heritage corridor. E. Protecting and restoring historic sites and buildings in the heritage corridor that are consistent with heritage corridor themes. F. Ensuring that clear, consistent, and appropriate signs identifying points of public access and sites of interest are posted throughout the heritage corridor. And G. Promoting a wide range of partnerships among governments, organizations, and individuals to further the purposes of the heritage corridor. 3. Consider the interests of diverse units of government, business, organizations, and individuals in the heritage corridor in the preparation and implementation of the management plan. 4. Conduct meetings open to the public at least quarterly regarding the development and implementation of the management plan. 5. Submit an annual report to the Secretary for any fiscal year in which the Commission receives federal funds under this Act, setting forth its accomplishments, expenses, and income, including grants made to any other entities during the year for which the report is made. 6. Make available for audit for any fiscal year in which it receives federal funds under this Act, all information pertaining to the expenditure of such funds, and any matching funds, and require all agreements authorizing expenditures of federal funds by other organizations, that the receiving organization make available for audit all records and other information pertaining to the expenditure of such funds. And 7. Encourage by appropriate means economic viability that is consistent with the purposes of the heritage corridor. B. Authorities the Commission may, for the purposes of preparing and implementing the management plan, use funds made available under this Act to 1. Make grants to, and enter into cooperative agreements with the states of South Carolina and Georgia, political subdivisions of those states, a nonprofit organization, or any person. 2. Hire and compensate staff. 3. Obtain funds from any source including any that are provided under any other federal law or program. And 4. Contract for goods and services. SEC. 7. Management Plan. In general, the management plan for the heritage corridor shall 1. Include comprehensive policies, strategies, and recommendations for conservation, funding, management, and development of the heritage corridor. 2. Take into consideration existing state, county, and local plans in the development of the management plan and its implementation. 3. Include a description of actions that governments, private organizations, and individuals have agreed to take to protect the historical, cultural, and natural resources of the heritage corridor. 4. Specify the existing and potential sources of funding to protect, manage, and develop the heritage corridor in the first 5 years of implementation. 5. Include an inventory of the historical, cultural, natural resources of the heritage corridor related to the themes of the heritage corridor that should be preserved, restored, managed, developed, or maintained. 6. Recommend policies and strategies for resource management that consider and detail the application of appropriate land and water management techniques, including the development of intergovernmental and interagency cooperative agreements to protect the heritage corridors, historical, cultural, and natural resources. 7. Describe a program for implementation of the management plan, including plans for resources protection, restoration, construction, and specific commitments for implementation that have been made by the Commission or any government, organization, or individual for the first 5 years of implementation. 8. Include an analysis and recommendations for the ways in which federal, state, or local programs may best be coordinated to further the purposes of this Act. And 9. Include an interpretive plan for the heritage corridor. B. Submittal of management plan. The Commission shall submit the management plan to the Secretary for approval not later than 3 years after funds are made available for this Act. C. Failure to submit. If the Commission fails to submit the management plan to the Secretary in accordance with subsection B, the heritage corridor shall not qualify for federal funding until the management plan is submitted. D. Approval or disapproval of management plan. 1. In general, the Secretary shall approve or disapprove the management plan not later than 90 days after receiving the management plan. 2. Criteria in determining whether to approve the management plan. The Secretary shall consider whether the Commission has afforded adequate opportunity, including public hearings, for public and governmental involvement in the preparation of the management plan. B. The resource preservation and interpretation strategies contained in the management plan would adequately protect the cultural and historic resources of the heritage corridor. And C. The Secretary has received adequate assurances from appropriate state and local officials whose support is needed to ensure the effective implementation of the state and local aspects of the plan. 3. Action following disapproval. If the Secretary disapproves the management plan, the Secretary shall advise the Commission in writing of the reasons therefor and shall make recommendations for revisions to the management plan. The Secretary shall approve or disapprove a proposed revision not later than 60 days after the date it is submitted. 4. Approval of amendments. Substantial amendments to the management plan shall be reviewed and approved by the Secretary in the same manner as provided in the original management plan. The Commission shall not use federal funds authorized by this Act to implement any amendments until the Secretary has approved the amendments. SEC. 8. Technical and financial assistance. In general, upon a request of the Commission, the Secretary may provide technical and financial assistance for the development and implementation of the management plan. B. Priority for assistance. In providing assistance under subsection the Secretary shall give priority to actions that assist in 1. Conserving the significant cultural, historical, and natural resources of the heritage corridor, and 2. Providing educational and interpretive opportunities consistent with the purposes of the heritage corridor. Page H7668. C. Spending for non-federal property. 1. In general, the Commission may expend federal funds made available under this Act on non-federally owned property that is identified in the management plan, or B. Listed or eligible for listing on the National Register for historic places. 2. Agreements. Any payment of federal funds made pursuant to this Act shall be subject to an agreement that conversion, use, or disposal of a project so assisted for purposes contrary to the purposes of this Act, as determined by the Secretary, shall result in a right of the United States to compensation of all funds made available to that project or the proportion of the increased value of the project attributable to such funds as determined at the time of such conversion, use, or disposal. Whichever is greater. SEC. 9. Duties of other federal agencies. Any federal agency conducting or supporting activities directly affecting the heritage corridor shall 1. Consult with the Secretary and the Commission with respect to such activities. 2. Cooperate with the Secretary and the Commission in carrying out their duties under this Act and, to the maximum extent practicable, coordinate such activities with the carrying out of such duties. And 3. To the maximum extent practicable, conduct or support such activities in a manner in which the Commission determines will not have an adverse effect on the heritage corridor. SEC. 10. Coastal Heritage Centers. In furtherance of the purposes of this Act and using the authorities made available under this Act, the Commission shall establish 1 or more coastal heritage centers at appropriate locations within the heritage corridor in accordance with the preferred alternative identified in the Record of Decision for the Low Country Gulliculture Special Resource Study and Environmental Impact Study, December 2003. SEC. 11. Private property protection. Access to private property. Nothing in this Act shall be construed to require any private property owner to permit public access, including federal, state, or local government access to such private property. Nothing in this Act shall be construed to modify any provision of federal, state, or local law with regard to public access to or use of private lands. B. Liability designation of the heritage corridor shall not be considered to create any liability or to have any effect on any liability under any other law of any private property owner with respect to any persons injured on such private property. C. Recognition of authority to control land use. Nothing in this act shall be construed to modify any authority of federal, state, or local governments to regulate land use. D. Participation of private property owners in heritage corridor. Nothing in this act shall be construed to require the owner of any private property located within the boundaries of the heritage corridor to participate in or be associated with the heritage corridor. E. Effective establishment. The boundaries designated for the heritage corridor represent the area within which federal funds appropriated for the purpose of this act shall be expended. The establishment of the heritage corridor and its boundaries shall not be construed to provide any non-existing regulatory authority on land use within the heritage corridor, or its view set by the secretary or the management entity. F. Notification and consent of property owners required. No privately owned property shall be preserved, conserved, or promoted by the management plan for the heritage corridor until the owner of that private property has been notified in writing by the management entity and has given written consent for such preservation, conservation, or promotion to the management entity. G. Landowner withdrawal. Any owner of private property included within the boundary of the heritage corridor shall have their property immediately removed from within the boundary by submitting a written request to the management entity. SEC. 12. Authorization of appropriations. In general, there is authorized to be appropriated for the purposes of this act not more than $1 million for any fiscal year. Not more than a total of $10 million may be appropriated for the heritage corridor under this act. B. Cost share. Federal funding provided under this act may not exceed 50% of the total cost of any activity for which assistance is provided under this act. C. In-kind contributions. The Secretary may accept in-kind contributions as part of the non-federal cost share of any activity for which assistance is provided under this act. SEC. 13. Termination of authority. The authority of the Secretary to provide assistance under this act shall terminate on the day occurring 15 years after the date of the enactment of this act. The Speaker pro tempore. Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from California, Mr. Radonovich, and the gentlewoman from Guam, Miss Bordello, each will control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Radonovich. Mr. Radonovich. Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume. H.R. 4683, introduced by the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Cliburn, and as amended by the Committee on Resources, would establish the Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor comprised of lands and waters important to preserving this unique culture in parts of South Carolina and Georgia. By way of background, throughout the early 1800s, the Gullah/Geechee settled in the coastal counties of South Carolina, Georgia, and northern Florida and, due largely to their isolated location, have remarkably maintained a great deal of their West African heritage. This bill would assist state and local governments with
While I'm
preserving
telling the
and
story.
interpreting the story of the Gullah/Geechee culture and its wonderful folklore, arts, crafts, and music. I urge adoption of the bill. Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time. Miss Bordello. Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume. Mr. Speaker, I would like to commend the sponsor of this bill, the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Cliburn, for bringing forth this most important measure. Mr. Speaker, I yield such time as he may consume to the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Cliburn. Mr. Cliburn. Mr. Speaker, I thank the gentlewoman for yielding me the time. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong support of H.R. 4683, the Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage Act, a bill that would create a Gullah/Geechee National Heritage Corridor and one or more coastal heritage centers along the coasts of Georgia and South Carolina. When I introduced this bill in June, I hoped, but did not believe, we would see this important legislation on the floor so quickly. I wish to thank the gentleman from California, Chairman Pombo, and the gentleman from West Virginia, Ranking Member Rahal, and the gentleman from California, Chairman Radonovich, and the gentlewoman from the Virgin Islands, Ranking Member Christensen, for their sensitive and prompt treatment of this legislation. I would also like to thank my good friend the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Brown, for his co-sponsorship, and the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Kingston, for his strong support of this legislation. Gullah/Geechee people are descendants of enslaved Africans who were forced to labor on plantations along the coasts of North and South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. They have a rich and distinctive cultural heritage, a culture born of African roots, yet nurtured and developed in the southeastern United States. Gullah/Geechee people are a proud and independent people who do not want their culture relegated to a museum or a history book. Instead, they want to keep their culture and language alive, to tell their stories in their own words, and share their heritage and experiences with the world. H.R. 4683 would help them to do so. For the past 4 years, the National Park Service and partnering agencies, Gullah/Geechee communities, and grassroots organizations have worked diligently to create a plan for the protection, preservation, and interpretation of the Gullah/Geechee language and culture. This bill reflects the findings of a 3-year study and input of Gullah/Geechee citizens. I believe wholeheartedly that this bill would help to lay the groundwork for keeping the culture alive and providing a means not just for the preservation, protection, and reinvigoration of Gullah/Geechee communities and cultural landscapes, but for making those unique experiences an integral part of the future social and economic activities in the southeastern United States. The coastal heritage centers described in the bill will provide places where all Americans can learn of the many contributions Gullah/Geechee ancestors made to American heritage. Mr. Speaker, I urge support for the passage of this bill, and once again, thank my colleagues for making this day possible. Ms. Bordello. Mr. Speaker, again I would like to commend the sponsor of page H7669. This bill, the gentleman from South Carolina. Mr. Speaker, I have no further speakers, and I yield back the balance of my time. Mr. Radonovich. Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time. The Speaker pro tempore. The question is on the motion offered by the gentleman from California, Mr. Radonovich, that the House suspend the rules and pass the bill, H.R. 4683, as amended. The question was taken, and 2/3 having voted in favor thereof, the rules were suspended and the bill, as amended, was passed. A motion to reconsider was laid on the table. There are 2 summaries for H.R. 4683. Bill summaries are authored by CRS. Shown here, passed House Amended 09282004. Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage Act establishes the Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor. Heritage Corridor. 2. 1. Recognize the important contributions made to American culture and history by African Americans known as the Gullah/Geechee who settled in the coastal counties of South Carolina and Georgia. 2. Assist state and local governments and public and private entities in South Carolina and Georgia in interpreting the story of the Gullah/Geechee and preserving Gullah/Geechee folklore, arts, crafts, and music. And 3. Assist in identifying and preserving sites, historical data, artifacts, and objects associated with the Gullah/Geechee for the benefit and education of the public. Provides that the Heritage Corridor shall be comprised of lands and waters depicted on a map entitled Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor dated September 2004 and on file at the National Park Service. Establishes the Gullah/Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor Commission to assist federal, state, and local authorities to develop and implement a management plan for Gullah/Geechee lands and waters. Sets forth the duties of the Commission, including the preparation and submission of a management plan to the Secretary of the Interior and annual reporting to the Secretary. Authorizes the Commission to make grants and enter into cooperative agreements with the states of South Carolina and Georgia to prepare and implement the management plan. Sets forth criteria for developing a management plan for the Heritage Corridor. Requires the Commission to submit the management plan to the Secretary for approval not later than 3 years after the funding of this act. Requires the Secretary to approve or disapprove, citing reasons, the management plan within 90 days after receiving the plan. Provides for technical and financial assistance to the Commission. Requires the Commission to establish one or more coastal heritage centers in the Heritage Corridor in accordance with the Low Country Gullah Culture Special Resource Study and Environmental Impact Study, December 2003. Sets forth protections for private landowners in the Heritage Corridor. Authorizes appropriations. Terminates the authorities under this Act 15 years after enactment.
I don't know what 15 years is from 2003. Uh, it's been past that, I guess, right? When was this enacted? 2003. Yeah. Well, it's been 20 years. And maybe they thought that they wasn't going to be successful in it, huh? But they gathered up Warnock and they said, Warnock, well, we need you to sign off and help them get as much land as possible under the Rainbow Coalition, because we's about to go down, low down, down in the gutter, huh? In the gullah gutter. And here's where the transparency lies, that when people come into knowledge of what's going on in the research and development for the Gullah Geechee Nation, that at least they are aware. It's like, yes, I'm freely making this choice. I was told the truth, and yes, this is where I decide to stand on the land, and I'm willing to fight for it when Biden them come talking about we sending you on over, huh? And because you were part of research and development, you don't have nothing that you could say. If this dole right here, U.S. Cyber Trust Mark of the Beast, all of it is connected. This is biblical. Huh? Transparency, everything. The truth will set you free. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna come back later. Can a dummy? Can a dummy? I've got to go ahead and get the household together, ready for bed, huh? Huh? I appreciate you coming over here. Don't come over here to listen. Come over here to go and where's your stream? Speak the truth. Huh? Speak it loud and clear on your stream. Everybody should be live and transparent right now. God on the way, huh? You got to make a choice. U.S. cybersecurity trust mark of the beast is under Biden economics trademark, and anybody that is federally funded under Bidenomics, especially if they're under a research and development series, the patent and the trademark of what you're under has no, it's null and void under this act when they need it. Huh? No, that's not true. That's not what this is saying. Then somebody school me, okay? I'll be back later on more about transparency. Transparency. That's the word for the until until the green lights come, okay? Or until Jesus, whatever however the Bible is playing out for you, revelation, research and development, whatever it is, it's ta ta. Ta ta, that's going to be my new word around the house. I guarantee you by tomorrow, I'll have my grandson saying it. Ta ta. Uh, greater light. Can a dummy, can a dummy, can a dummy. Let's see what you went in, can a dummy. You went in. Computer voice, voice of emergency weather warning, and who knows what else. Emergency measures, climate police does not affect the law, just overwrites it. Write the letter and get taken out. They can separate the land, but not the water. Tricky with eminent domain. You doing weather service, you weather broadcasting, huh? Management. Here, let me just put it up here. There you go. Will include draining the land. Or damming rivers and flooding. Whatever it say in Revelation that's going to happen to those left behind. I don't know. What do you think is going to happen? Maybe they won't get left behind. They'll just be sucked up in the sky into a green light of aliens. What is it you believe in, Canada Dummy? Where's your page that's speaking your truth and transparency? Uh, transparent. You government transparent. You always talk about what they doing to you, huh? But where is your stream yard, huh? Stream it. Let me hear you. What? You working with them? You been, hey, James Cameron, JC. Oh, no, Ken, my bad. Play your clarinet. If that's the only truth you got, that clarinet, click on and blow, Canada me. Click and blow. Greater light.